Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, doing his radio voice. And today I have with me, I actually practiced how to say this correctly. And then we chatted for half an hour. Upasana Unni.
Exactly. You nailed it, Tony.
Awesome. Upasana Unni, Chief Commercial Officer at, and of course, I didn't ask how to pronounce the company, at Sayata.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
You
Awesome.
got it.
Awesome. Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. The pre-conversation has already been fantastic. So we'll rehab a lot of it. So Upasana, and you're in Boston area, right?
Yes,
In
I'm
fact,
in Cambridge,
if I'm not
Mass.
if I'm not mistaken, like MIT is in Cambridge, right? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm like walking distance.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, awesome. So I always talk a little bit about the weather. So Boston in early July is probably gorgeous.
Hot and humid, but we'll take it because we deal with so much snow and cold and wind during the winter. So
Okay.
everyone is happy for like the 3 months where we get to enjoy the sunshine.
Okay, hot and humid. We'll get okay. Let's do the mandatory part first, and then we'll go in every direction. Okay. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So what is Sayata?
Sayata is the easiest place for a wholesale broker to do business, to place business insurance for SMB risks. We're a marketplace. And so basically, within a couple of minutes, we allow brokers to get multiple quotes from leading carriers. And then the quotes are laid out side by side and enclosed in a sales kit that the broker can just simply forward on to the agent and then the insured. And the insured selects a quote, fills in the application online, broker binds through Sayata, and our insurance operations team takes care of a lot of the back end changes or endorsements and all of that stuff that happens afterward, after the binder gets issued. So we're basically a tool, a marketplace or a platform, you can call us, that makes it extremely easy and efficient for wholesale brokers to place commercial risk for SMBs.
Okay. So the first thing, the easiest place for wholesale brokers to do business, that's a big statement there, right? Them fighting words in some places. So awesome. So I like that you're specifically focused on wholesale.
Yes.
Because it's a weird area of insurance that I've never worked the wholesale space, but it's a weird area of insurance that is hard to automate, right? There's like the reason people are going to a wholesaler is because this is not your mom and pop flower shop down the street,
when
right?
we say SMBs, we mean under 100 million in revenue. We don't mean you're like next door, like dry cleaner and things like that. We mean more like SMB is the way commercial insurers mean SMB. So not micro business. Your mom and pops are what we call micro business.
Okay, but still, if they're going to a wholesaler, it's because this is not the easiest to write.
Yes. So our first insurance line is cyber. And as you can imagine, especially in the current market, cyber is very difficult to place at the moment. So we've become kind of, I think, more critical as an extension of the broker's tool set than ever. Retail agents can't necessarily place get a cheap and easy cyber policy for their SMBs as easily as they could have 2 years ago. Because, in the world of cyber insurance, we can go into all of this, but basically SMBs are now the new target, right? Because all of the bigger players have beefed up their security. Everyone who's probably listening to this has to do multi-factor authentication like 7 times a day to just write an email, right? Or access their phone or use an app, use Slack, whatever. SMBs are now the least secured place in terms of American commerce, and therefore that's where the hackers go.
So I just one quick comment on the 7 time,
multi-factor.
multi-factor. I'm a Mac guy. I work from a Mac that has a fingerprint reader.
Nice.
Right? Why? Like, when will I be able to just log into absolutely everything with like? And yeah, I do.
You
I do want the computer to, like, make sure that my finger's alive, right? I don't want the whole, like getting my finger cut off by a criminal,
No, you can use a
right?
temperature
I
sensor, right?
I do
I
want that
know.
safety feature, but like, please, let's get there. Like, or like, I haven't flown that much this year compared to years in the past, but the last time I flew, I went to Greece, and I boarded with my eyes, right, wearing a
Mhm.
mask,
Retinal scans, yep.
right? Like, I'd be more than happy to log into everything with retinal scan or fingerprint.
I totally get it. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there one day, but but in the meantime, I mean, this is like simple easy stuff, right? Someone sending a phishing email, getting a password, and then just, locking up your servers
Mhm.
or holding hostage. I mean, the amazing thing is, I didn't realize that as much before I joined, and I can go into my background. It's pretty non-traditional. But a lot of the when we say SMBs, like the insureds that are having trouble getting their insurance placed is actually schools, hospitals, municipalities. So as you can imagine, they have much more like restricted IT budgets. Even implementing something like multi-factor takes like a pretty robust IT department just to roll that out to hundreds of users, right? And get people trained up actually using it across all of the different applications that they use. And that can be challenging, a huge challenge if you imagine you're like, not New York City's government, but a very like a smaller town with that still has a lot of, important data that they need to keep secure and not necessarily the most robust security practices in place today. So for them right now, it's very, very challenging if they get hacked and they don't have insurance. So what we provide is right now very easy way for brokers to go to, up about 10 markets. We're adding a couple more at the moment, and get multiple quotes, compare coverages side by side, basically makes their job much more easy for the you can probably hear my daughter in the background screaming. So I'm just going to say,
I
hey,
can't
I'm a
hear it, so you're good.
mom. I've got a 1 year old. But that's what we do is basically make it easier to place that type of business. And our history is we've been in business for over 2.5 years now at this point in this form. And so we were one of the first, if not the first, kind of comparative aggregator for SMB cyber insurance. Our origin story is like many great cyber insurance related companies based in Israel. We have three co-founders who are all in the Israeli Defense Force, extremely kind of top level elite, very, very, very smart guys, and who knew a lot about cybersecurity, didn't know a ton about insurance. So what they did, and I think this is what sets us apart from many other um, aggregator type of platforms, is that they went and hired quite a few like industry veterans. So we have two sides to our business. One is actually, getting brokers to come on to use the platform and give us a chance. And the other is actually servicing requests after you want to bind a policy. Because I think there's like a beautiful world where ideally all these policies would be straight through process, one click done. That's not the reality of insurance. It's a complicated business. No insured is exactly fits all the boxes, right? That you want it to fit. And so you need that flexibility and that ability to say, I need this to be changed. I need this to be adjusted. I need this specific coverage. I need this limit to be changed. And we have a operations team led by a 20-year cyber and tech underwriter who basically makes sure that it is essentially an extension of the carriers in our case to help them deal with many, many, many smaller policies. And then we essentially deal with a lot of the upfront work for them. And on the back end, the last 5% might be the things that need to actually get their underwriter attention. So for carriers, we also are extremely helpful because we weed out a lot of the smaller, easier things that their teams are frankly don't have the capacity at the moment with all the requests for new policies happening to really process. So we basically present a win-win-win in the insurance industry, right? Brokers love us. Agents love brokers who have us because obviously they get their quotes very, very quickly compared to the brokers who don't use us. And carriers love us because we are basically a much more cost-efficient way for them to do business at the SMB segment, right? Because for an underwriter, it takes you nearly the same amount of time for a $2,000 policy as a $20,000 or $50,000 policy to really underwrite something. And so if our ops team are kind of your extension, you can actually process through so many more of those SMB policies in one place efficiently without having an underwriter, an expensive underwriter kind of looking at that. And that's something that our carrier partners love from us too.
Okay. So 20-year veteran of cyber. So this person was basically there at Beasley when the thing was invented.
Case actually, but sure, yeah, exactly. Exactly, exactly.
I'm
Yeah, yeah, no, I
exaggerating
know.
a little
It's
bit, but
basically
like
he's a
cyber is,
he's a grandfather, but he's actually
yeah.
not that old.
Yeah, because that's the thing with cyber. We just have not had
Yeah,
it for that. It's kind of the
exactly.
newest line of business, right? Right, with marine being the oldest and cyber being the
Mm-hmm.
newest.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some real insurance people there.
Exactly. Even
Okay.
our folks who our business development team that goes and kind of works to bring brokers to Sayata, they're actually several of them are former underwriters too. So like we went and hired some really like the veterans of this kind of more nascent industry because we knew that that's what it would take in order to actually build up the trust. It's a very relationship based business, especially on the wholesale side, you can imagine, right? And so what Sayata brings to the table is not just extremely good technology, built by some of like the world's best in Israel, but also some of those really deep relationships in the market, both on the carrier and the broker side. And that's, I think, what's made us really special. Our growth has been enormous. We've grown 10x in 2021, and we're binding millions of dollars of premium on a monthly basis. We have over 1,000 users at the moment, I believe, and pretty much every major brokerage out there, we have at least several users using Sayata across the country in the US.
Okay.
So
So
we're pretty
Mhm.
we're in the background, but we're pretty actually prominently in the middle of a lot of cyber business,
Okay.
SMB cyber.
So I always ask about the revenue slash pricing model, but I'm also
Mhm.
curious. So you say at all the big shops, we have at
Yeah,
least a few people. So that's
yeah,
interesting. Like I always imagine something like this. Again, having never worked in a wholesaler, I always imagine that if CRC or whoever like makes the decision, okay, yeah, we're going with this, then it gets rolled out to older brokers. So tell me about kind of the pricing model, how it works,
yeah.
and and
And
and
then
and, and what the implementation looks like.
sure. So the pricing model, we charge a small fee that in almost every case, basically, brokers can pass on, so that the insured ends up paying that fee. We don't believe in kind of an upfront subscription or usage fee. We're not a lead gen platform. We only get paid when a binder gets issued. So we are really truly like trying to be on the side of the kind of incumbents right now in the industry. So when brokers get paid, we get paid as opposed to, when you click through or when you sign up for a platform. That I think is also something that sets us apart right now in terms of all of the options out there. And for us, we do tons and tons of binders. So that small fee adds up to enough to be kind of significant when you think about thousands and thousands of policies actually being issued. So it's about 200 to, I think it varies a little bit by size of account, but it's not a massive fee. But so that's very easy for clients to understand, meaning end insurers and agents to understand that because we got our quotes like sometimes 10 times faster than if the broker had gone to the open market, that's you're paying a little bit for that privilege.
So all good technology eventually pays for itself, right? Eventually it has a positive ROI. Otherwise, it was a bad investment. So in this case, it's a very easy to see ROI
Yes.
because it's by the bind, and as long as the law allows us, or whatever, as long as it's not allowed, we can pass that cost to
Yeah.
the client. So literally, like, there's just nothing to lose.
Exactly. There's no upfront cost to brokers to trying it out, which has also been very helpful, obviously, for us in scaling. And we don't lock them in and say, like, you need to hit a certain volume or you need to do the, it is, if we're providing value to you, meaning you've confirmed a binder and it's been issued, then we would like to be paid. So we are with you all the way through. And then the only way that I think that kind of model works, though, is that you actually have the team that we have helping process the binders on the back end, right? Not every carrier on our platform necessarily has like huge workforce sitting there helping process, or super, super fast APIs that are basically doing it for them. So our team becomes kind of extension of our various carriers. And just in terms of my role, what I focus on is basically managing all of those carrier partnerships. So the relationships with all of our different carriers, both the ones we have already, as well as the ones we're onboarding over time, include whether in cyber or in the new product lines that we have brewing in the background.
Okay, so if I'm a listener and I'm just a broker
Yeah.
at CRC, or I don't know why I keep saying
Yeah.
CRC, the Amwins, or right, they just happens to be
Anywhere.
the first wholesalers that came to mind, right?
Yeah.
So my office is not yet using this. Uh, from your perspective, from their
Yeah.
perspective, but from your perspective, can I sign up, or do I have to
Yeah.
convince my
No, you don't need,
my?
no, no, no.
Okay,
It's individual user accounts. And
okay.
what we've experienced is that, you know, I think one of the amazing things about insurance is it's full of very entrepreneurial people. Like, so every broker, right, has their own book and what needs to manage their own book.
The
So
wholesale space, especially,
at
like,
wholesale, especially,
yeah,
there's very few, you don't have a
mm,
lot of like, extra help.
yeah, yeah.
You're doing all the work yourself. And so what we found is that it's kind of a individual by individual basis. Some folks are like, I love the way I do things. I don't want to change anything. And that's it. And that's fine. But especially for the SMB accounts, and usually, like the more senior you are, the more larger accounts you're working, but the more junior you are, the more smaller the accounts you're working. It's really about, you got to be efficient with your time, right? Every dollar, every minute that you spend on a account is dollars that could be spent, going and recruiting new clients or working on a larger account than the $1,500 premium account. So for the junior brokers in any given office, particularly, but it really applies to everyone. It is like an extremely efficient way for them to get those policies out the door. And so what we find is that basically a lot of it's based on mindset. And when a lot of it's also word of mouth. So when someone at a CRC, or, let's say Joe's like brokerage in Georgia, wherever, starts using it, and one of their colleagues goes, "Hey, how did your numbers like jump like that?" Right? Especially in the SMB, which is like, it's a pain in the ass to keep track of all of the different emails and all of the different quotes coming in and packaging all of them nicely, etc. Well, people share that it's Sayata. I've got access to this thing that one of my friends in the industry told me about. Well, like, you can sign up, it's not a problem. That's kind of how we've exploded so quickly, is that people are recommending us to their colleagues, and it isn't necessarily a top down blessing or anything like that. I think it's very hard when you have so many entrepreneurial folks to tell them exactly how to do their job. You can tell them, here's your target. You can tell them, I want more of this type of business. But telling them how they need to go and get that thing placed is a very difficult, when the reason you have these folks in your company is because they are like always going and solving problems and figuring out new ways to get their business done as quickly and efficiently as possible. Like, you want to give them that freedom. So I think that's what we've experienced, is that top-down mandates don't work super well in this industry generally across brokerages. And but rumors about, oh, I've heard about this tool that is really useful, Why wouldn't you use it?
That
Like,
spreads like wildfire.
I mean, is it like Slack? Think about Slack. Why do we all basically use Slack?
uh,
And no one told you to use Slack. You just were like, oh, this is definitely the best tool for messaging. I'm not using, MSN
for
Messenger anymore.
for the carrier listeners out there,
Yes.
Slack is the messaging system that every insurtech uses internally, and you don't have to be left out. Insurance Nerds runs an open Slack for the whole community. Anybody can join at insuranceslack.com. Great place to find the insurtechs.
Plug in.
Well, no,
Well, no, it's so true. It's so
but
true.
it is true. Like it's one of the cultural differences, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So what about the carriers? So if I'm a carrier, and this sounds like it would save me a lot of headache, what does it look like from the carrier side
Yeah.
to bring Sayata on?
So, I mean, it depends, right? We're not looking to be a place where we offer, 50 options. We're not like, booking.com or something like that. We want to have a solid panel of carriers. That means that when a broker enters a random risk in the SMB space, they're almost certainly going to get at least a couple of options to take to their agent. That's what our role is. So my job is to make sure that we have that panel. And appetites are constantly changing. So my job is also managing that panel and making sure that, hey, someone so and so has started pulling out of this part of the market. We need to replace that, right? Because not everybody may have pulled out at the same time. Sometimes it happens. We know there's herd mentality, but usually you can find someone who's willing to say, okay, I'm going to underwrite that. It might be a different price, but I'm going to underwrite that. So my job is making sure that for every type of insurance product that a broker is looking for, we have a panel that means that they have multiple options to bring back to their agent. And so what we do is we basically make it as easy as possible, as long as the carrier has appetite for what we are going to bring them. And we know, like, this is the type of SMBs we see the most of. These are the states. These are the types of sizes of revenue. So we go through this kind of a little bit of a dating game to see, are we a good match for each other? Because if you're actually looking for 250 million plus, businesses, like we're not going to be sending you that. If you want micro mom and pops, we're not going to be probably sending you that. So, but if you're in our sweet spot and you have coverage and availability of your product in all of the states where we really need it, then awesome. We're excited to work with you, and we can work with you through whatever integrations you're offering right now. So that's another thing. We try to meet the carriers where they are. Some of them are obviously, tech forward. We have multiple insurtechs who are, MGAs basically as carriers on our platform. We also have lots of traditional carriers who have more traditional ways of integrating in. And so we kind of work along the spectrum. What we care about, though, is if your appetite meets our distribution, there's like, why not? Why wouldn't you want to be on the Sayata platform, right? Would you say no to any broker coming to knock on your door and say, I'd love to distribute your product? No, like that would be crazy. Why would you say that? But at the same time, like, we have the data to be able to say, okay, we are a good fit for you, or we're not a good fit for you. And we like to do that up front and then be clear before we move forward.
Okay, I like that. I 330 episodes. Now, I wasn't the host for all of them, but I don't remember a single other insurtech basically saying, like, we'll significantly underwrite you before actually selling you.
Yeah, I mean, it IT time,
sense.
our technology time, right? Like, it's my time. It's an investment. We're
Yeah.
still a startup. We're a very well funded startup, but we're still a startup. And so, we don't want to waste time on both sides. Like, the relationship matters. Like, we know that in this industry, and that's something I think that really matters to us, is like being upfront about all of this before we get into a relationship.
It makes sense. Makes sense. So I always like to ask the question about your background, how you came up with the idea. I've got to say, look at your LinkedIn. It almost feels like one of those like LinkedIn's created to scam you. Like you're so blue chip. So let's go through it real quick. Okay, so
Yeah,
valedictorian in high school. I'm gonna assume that Valley Stream is just a normal high school.
very normal
Not
high school.
okay. Then Harvard, magna cum laude. and then Harvard Business School MBA, and then of course, like Harvard plus Harvard, McKinsey is the only thing that made sense afterwards. It was that or Goldman Sachs, right? Or I guess Google. So then you go to McKinsey, spend 10 years at McKinsey. Right, McKinsey is famous for the up or out. So clearly you grew during your time at McKinsey. So Harvard, so valedictorian, Harvard, McKinsey. How on earth do you end up in insurance afterwards? Like,
I know. I actually, so this is because we were very confidential about clients when we were at McKinsey. So, like, I obviously can't put anything up there.
Mhm.
But I actually ended up at insurance inside of McKinsey, which was also surprising. But it was honestly, I come back to this, and it's a weird thing to say, but it was the people inside of both McKinsey and the clients. The insurance practice was full of some of kind of, I think, the best humans, right? Some of my favorite partners that I learned from were really great human beings and taught me how to be a good leader myself. They were just happening to work on insurance clients, and I found out the reason was because the insurance clients, it has a reputation as being kind of an old school and kind of boring industry and all of that, but at the same time, like, I think there's this real one meaning that people have when they work in insurance, which is that you're offering somebody reassurance, really, right? That if something goes wrong, someone has your back. So that's the contract you're selling. And I think that matters a lot to the people who work in insurance for their like entire careers. That's part of the reason that they're there. I don't think kind of our entire commerce system could exist. And then in like more personalized stuff, I think a lot of like just life events, the insurance that's available to help protect you and your family for all of those, like such a critical like cog in our capitalist machine. um and the second is that the people are really nice. It's because relationships matter in the long run. I think people know that, people without a great reputation don't go very far in the industry. And so it's a
everybody
place
knows
where
everybody.
everybody knows everybody, everyone has a reputation. And
Oh.
so it tends to attract like people who are good to other people.
Mhm.
It's so relationship based. And I think all of those things meant that like it was a little bit, you think of McKinsey and you think of a bunch of kind of maybe cutthroat, a little intense, a little high strung, management consultants. And the insurance practice was, I think, for me, a very different experience. So when I came back from business school and I'd gone and worked in Australia, I started out in the DC office. I came back to Boston because my husband is Australian and moved to Boston for me and said, I'm not moving again. So I needed to pick a practice that made sense out of Boston. And I ended up in insurance. And I had a fantastic time. And some of the work I did there was some really, again, going back to that, it might be boring kind of reputation. I did some really cool stuff there
It is not. We
it
have
is
the
not. It is
reputation,
absolutely
but
not.
it is
Exactly.
absolutely like this is a
It's almost like a little
fascinating
bit of a
industry.
secret. Like it's a well-kept secret
A
so that the
hundred
people who are
percent.
in it can have an absolute blast. If you are, I think, on the like, pushing the innovation and the really high energy kind of type of person, like I think it's a great place to go and
So
break
it,
down some of the like the old ways of doing
so
things.
the
There's a
carriers
lot of opportunity.
can be very conservative, yes, but the
Yes.
business is not boring.
No, no.
Like the stuff that we work on is very interesting. In fact, like I always go back to like we are the only business that doesn't know the cost of goods sold, right? Like I've got a bachelor's and an MBA, not from Ivy League schools. You've got a bachelor's and an MBA
Yeah.
from Ivy League schools. Uh, like with a business degree, like we don't know the cost of what of goods sold. It's the craziest idea ever,
I
right? And
know.
yet
I know.
somehow it works, right? And it's so important for the economy, and absolutely everything needs insurance, right? Like literally
I
whatever you happen to be into, somebody sells that insurance, somebody underwrites it. Like it is a
totally.
fascinating industry.
It's
Um,
it's very cool. I spent a lot of time in London actually, serving clients over there, and
so
got to
go,
got
go,
to
you got to
walk
visit
around.
Lloyd's.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm
Spent
so I haven't
plenty.
done that. I've been to
Oh my
London, but
goodness,
not
you got to get
Lloyd's.
over there, Tony.
It's
It's
on my
open
to-do
again,
list.
although I've heard from contacts that it's very empty and not quite the same. But you walk
Oh,
around and you see that book where they wrote about how the Titanic sunk today, and they have the bell that they ring on the every time there is a ship sinking, and it's incredible that they paid out very quickly on all of those claims. And then, of course, the premiums spiked, but it meant that the trust in the actual business of insurance, like that has not been broken in centuries. And that, I think, is kind of the magic of the industry. And what I love about, Sayata is I think it's one of the things when I walked around in London quite a bit, people talked about something like Sayata should exist, right? I worked for both brokers and carriers. Everybody knew it should exist, but the technology to do that and the kind of, being able to be agile enough and, think through how to solve some of the very basic issues of people don't categorize, questions the same way or businesses the same way. So how possibly could you invent, build this thing? I think the co-founders of Sayata did an incredible job getting it off the ground by, very, very being very ingenious in how they approach a lot of these problems, and said, like, we're going to truly test and learn, put it out there and keep learning and iterating and improving based on feedback. So the Sayata demo that I give folks this week has 3 or 4 different features that didn't exist 2 weeks ago. And that constantly keeps changing. In fact, it trips me up during my demos because that's how fast we respond to feedback. And that's, I think, bringing that like level of a kind of technology ability to develop quickly and respond to feedback to what is at the core of it, like a really cool and interesting a product. That is what I think what like really fascinated me and got me excited about joining Sayata. And so that's what eventually. So one of the reasons I joined is I knew a ton about that this need was very real in the market. We've been talking about it for years. It had like nothing really great had taken off and gotten off the ground yet, and they had already built kind of like an version 1.5 essentially already, and they wanted someone to help scale, and that's got me very excited. I'd spent so much time consulting and telling people what I thought they should do as opposed to doing it myself. And so I thought, you know what, sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and actually get going and do it, and see if I can kind of build the thing that I believe that the industry also really needed, and have a lot of fun along the way. That's the last part is it's an incredibly fun, really kind group of humans at Sayata. I think that is was it really important to me, as you can tell from my like background, like what's attracted me despite all of the brand names and all the stuff of the places I've been is really good humans. And for me, that, was a very big part of why I decided to join Sayata. I interviewed with everybody and I just got this feeling like it didn't feel like a sharky kind of, oh my gosh, like, do, full speed ahead at all costs. It was more like, we want to do the right thing by our brokers, by our carriers, and by our teams. Like, we care deeply about all of that. And that to me made it a really great fit for me when I was like, approached, and it was just the right timing. I'd also just had my kid, and I was thinking about getting back on a plane for 5 days a week, the way I used to pre-COVID. And I was like, this is a pretty cute baby right here. So a fully remote job, with going to hopefully seeing you at some conferences seems like a really great way to kind of stay in a super exciting role, but without necessarily all of the travel that I used to have to do.
Okay. So just before we started recording, we talked about one of the big reasons you wanted to come on the show is because you're trying to hire.
Mm-hmm.
So what you made a really good case for why Sayata is a great company to work in. So what type of people, what type of skill sets?
Yeah.
What locations? It sounds like it's 100% remote. And again, you're more than free to talk about current openings, but this will go live in like a little bit less than a month, right? But in like going forward, what type of people are you hoping to attract to the company?
Absolutely. So we're an interesting hybrid. So we're 50% basically in Israel, 50% in the US, and the US team is fully remote. So I'm going to focus on the US side because I assume most of the kind of listeners are based in the US.
You're 100% correct.
So we have both. So we have my team, which I'm hiring for like immediately, which is folks who are excited to work with carriers essentially. So getting to work across, see a spectrum of different types of carriers. We call them markets, but both traditional kind of the multi-line, multinational players, all the way to the brand new insurtechs that play in one line of business only so far, and so you get to see the breadth of what it is like to engage with all these carriers. You get to learn kind of what makes them tick and how they all function, what the pros and cons of every one of those companies are, and then to build relationships with them, right? Because the goal is to figure out, how can they basically offer their product in the best way possible on Sayata and perform the best, right? Because it is a marketplace. So at the end of the day, they want to do well. They want to actually get premium on Sayata. So kind of developing a little bit of that advisory relationship. So that's my team, and I'm looking for folks with great project management skills, and excitement for insurtech and for particularly like a soft spot on the carrier side. So it could be you've worked at a carriers before, it could be you've worked at a broker, but you were doing a lot of carrier relations there. Those kind of profiles I think would be awesome for me. I'm really very open-minded about backgrounds. It's more about passion, right? I think mindset is something that is much harder to learn than specific details about, how to set up a new carrier onto our platform. And in terms of the rest of the company, there's quite a few, like there's ops manager roles. So folks,
hold
go
on.
ahead.
So your team, they're business development slash sales, or are they customer success people?
They are more like business development
Okay.
and basically we do everything up until the product team takes over for doing the integration with a new carrier. And then we keep the relationship longer term with that carrier partner. So
Okay, so that makes it a business development slash customer success role. But
yes,
the business
but
development part is
it's
right
exactly
now
our
the
like
bulk.
real customer success. If you're talking about like a policy by policy basis,
No, no, no.
that's a different
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, no. So in this case, I mean customer success as the customer is the carrier,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So exactly. So I think that's some of the roles we're looking for. I'm also like hiring for folks who have deep relationships in the industry. So again, my background is not being a veteran of insurance in the traditional sense. I'm not like a former broker or underwriter. So ideally, some folks with some, just deep relationships across carrier partners who can at the senior level kind of maintain some of our kind of existing contacts, as well as help introduce us to new contacts. Obviously carriers are, especially the more traditional and larger ones, have a million projects and initiatives going on at any one time. So folks who can catch the attention of kind of some of the more senior executives who can make a decision around, does this Sayata make sense over some of the other projects that we're looking at. I think as most insurtechs do, we have to fight for the attention of everybody.
And there's only
Right?
2,000 of you or so, right?
Exactly. I wish we were in the days of when it was only 20 when you
Uh-huh.
started out, Tony, but
Yeah.
no longer. So making sure that folks understand that we are the real deal, right? We can really deliver what we're promising.
Okay. So
Uh,
you need business development people. What else do you need here in the States?
There are ops managers in terms of, so this is the underneath that veteran underwriter I was telling you about, who manages our ops team. So as accounts are basically being submitted and bind requests getting sent through, helping make sure that all of the responses needed to broker questions, any endorsements, everything that needs to happen on a policy by policy basis is getting done. So those are more, I think we call that our ops managers. I'm not sure what, term you might use
That's
more
fair.
generically. Yeah. So those folks. And then I think eventually we'll also need some more business development folks who focus on bringing on new broker partners. So this would probably be a former broker, maybe a former underwriter who has tons of a big network, right, and wants to introduce more folks to Sayata, where we've been basically growing kind of just at like a ridiculous pace. So our teams are generally all could use some help at the moment. So I think we are very, very willing to look at profiles of folks with underwriter, broker, BD and customer success and ops experience.
Okay, fantastic. Uh, so we talked about the origin story. We talked about pricing. We talked about your own story, what the company does. I think we've covered all of the usual stuff
Mm-hmm.
uh, that we usually talk about in the
I have a
podcast.
question for you,
Yes.
if that's
Oh,
okay.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, you are the recruiting expert, in terms of like on talent, especially for millennials looking for jobs in insurtech. So, what would your advice be to me in being in this role and looking to hire, in a kind of crazy market still? We're still in the middle of, I think, for the great talent out there, like it is still, you've got lots of options.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
so
Oh
so
yeah.
how do you make yourself attractive in this market?
So 100% remote is a great start.
Yeah.
A great internal culture of people that work hard, play hard, right? It's a trite phrase, but it's true. That's the kind of companies that young people want to work in. Companies that are exciting, and companies where they feel like they care about us,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Uh, doesn't mean there's a guarantee of lifetime employment, much less at an insurtech, right? We
Yeah.
should be very honest on that. But what I can guarantee here is that you'll learn a ton. It'll be super exciting. You'll gain a ton of connections within the industry. Uh, if we succeed, well, and if they're getting equity, I don't know if they're getting equity.
Mhm.
If we succeed, you might retire at 30.
Mhm.
Even if we don't, right? Let's be honest. The majority of insurtechs won't succeed. Uh, Even if we don't, you have become much more valuable here than you would have had you gone into claims or had you gone into banking or right. Like
Completely.
and all without doing what I did, right? I'm talking about you, not me. All without doing what I did and going to a to a grinder where I'm working 100-hour weeks and traveling the right, whether that's investment banking or whatever,
Mhm.
consult or management consulting. So I think that if you approach them on they likely never thought of insurance, right? We know that now. Little by little, insurtech is getting enough of a of a positive reputation that kids do call me and say, how do I get a job in insurtech? And they've never worked in insurance, and I'm like, how did you even learn that insurtech was a thing, right? So that happens more and more.
Yeah.
But that, so this is really good for all of us. But the majority of them, um, the majority of them, right, never thought of working in insurance. So you do have to do a little bit of selling how awesome the industry is, and you did a great job of that early at the beginning of this conversation. But you do have to sell that, right? You're gonna work for this awesome industry with awesome people. What we do is important for the world. It pays well. You can have a great career here, whether
Yeah.
Sayata IPOs or whether we go out of business in 2 years. Either way, you like we're preparing you for a great career long term with Gen Zers especially. So with millennials, and again, millennials now are like, I'm about to be 40 in 6 months, and I'm not the very oldest. I'm just towards the oldest millennials. Uh, and the youngest are millennials are, according to my quick math, which I can't do in my head because I'm not good at math, are about 26, right? So we're not doing kids anymore, right? I
Yeah.
say kids
Yeah.
for anybody under 40, but they're not really kids anymore. For millennials, you sell the mission. This is an amazing industry, and we're doing amazing work in revolutionizing that industry. Okay, with Gen Zers, you sell the not so much the mission, more the stability, right?
Mhm.
Which for a carrier is a really easy sell. We've been here for 100 years. We've never downsized. For an insurtech, it's a little bit different. It's I can't guarantee that Sayata will be here for 100 years, right?
Yeah, totally.
In its current form, right? Uh, what I can guarantee is that the experience you're going to get here number one, well, in a startup, small company, you're gonna do a lot of different, regardless of your job title.
100%.
You're gonna touch a lot of different things. You're gonna have influence, uh, and you're gonna get amazing experience. You're gonna work your butt off. You're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna have amazing experience. That experience is valuable, and you will always be able to find the job within insurance, which is a great career, right? So
Yeah.
so I think that's kind of the approach that you take. There is one organization called QGrads. QGrads is part of Quest Pro, which is an insurance recruiting firm that's technically a
Mhm.
competitor. But QGrads uh, uh, is a great group to partner with. They
Mhm.
basically work in placing entry level people who want to work in insurance.
Mhm.
So I'd go talk to them. I'd go talk to some colleges because that's harder. But nowadays there's like fintech programs at some schools, right?
Yeah.
So I'd approach schools. That was it's a little harder because it used to be like you become friends with your local college. Well, in your case, your local college is MIT. Might be a little hard to recruit into
A
insurance,
little bit hard to
uh,
get those kids for
but
sure.
but but uh, but but even if it wasn't, like either way, you're a remote first company, so
Yeah.
it's not so much about your local college, it's much more about who has a couple of programs that are a great fit,
Yeah.
uh right? So that's kind of how I would approach it.
Very, very, very helpful. Thank you, Tony. I
No,
appreciate that.
no,
You've been
no,
doing this for a lot longer actually than I have, so I'll
I've
take
been
all the
thinking
advice I can get.
about this for a long time, and
Yeah.
as it happened. So anyway, this has been just a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I very much look forward to have you back as you guys continue to grow. Uh, Talk
Thank
about,
you
and
for
especially
having
with
me.
how
Yeah.
quickly the
Yeah.
system is advancing. When this goes live, I will tag you on LinkedIn. I will tag Sayata also. Um, and yeah, hopefully you get some new clients. Hopefully you get some new people, some new
Perfect.
employees, maybe some new investors. Like hopefully you get a little bit of everything.
That would be
Uh,
amazing.
but thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Tony, for having me. This has been super fun. Thanks.